This is the account with the daily news report for day 285 of the Ukraine war. Welcome and thank you for tuning in. The main flashpoints along the front today were Bakhmut. Russia launched a major assault on the city and Wagner units managed to advance on the Lumumba Street. Ukrainian reinforcements were deployed amidst heavy fighting. Pro-Russian sources claim the front is crumbling, but video evidence showing countless bodies lying outside Ukrainian defensive positions suggests Russia is suffering massive losses. A video was shared on social media showing GMLRS systems firing in the Bakhmut direction. Novoselivsk. Reports of heavy fighting. Both sides claim at least partial control over the settlement. However, either side has yet to provide visual confirmation. Along the northern Svatova front line, Ukraine claimed the liberation of the following settlements: Satishne, Yahidne, Ivanivka. And now for the main news. As you might have heard, today's news were dominated by the explosion on 2 Russian airbases deep behind the front and another massive missile attack on Ukraine by Russia. Local media reported about an explosion at Dzhankoy military airbase near Ryazan around 6:30 a.m. Later, it was reported that a fuel tanker exploded, killing 3 people and injuring 6. 1 aircraft was said to have been damaged. And according to Russian media, an unidentified drone hit the Engels 1 military airbase in the Saratov region, wounding 2 servicemen and damaging 2 Tu-95 bombers. The explosions at Engels 1 airbase took place around 6 a.m. local time and could be heard several kilometers away. Both airfields are home to Russian strategic bombers. I will attach 2 videos recorded by security cameras after this report showing the explosion at the Engels 1 airbase. As more and more info comes in, numbers on casualties and destroyed planes might be outdated by now. Now, usually I do not want to dabble into rumors and speculations like this, but I just wanted to mention it as it has been pointed out to me. Claims were made that on top of the Dzhankoy and Engels 1 military airbases, the Shaikovka airbase north of Bryansk was hit as well. However, so far the evidence seems to be based on claims out of a local Telegram chat, so please take this with a grain of salt. What we can confirm, though, is an explosion in Dzhankoy, which houses a large military presence on top of a military airfield. As you might remember, some days ago the General Staff report mentioned Dzhankoy military base housing up to 750 pieces of equipment and units for deployment. Shortly after midnight, Russia fired several rockets at Kryviy Rih, hitting the ArcelorMittal Kryviy Rih steel plant. 1 employee was killed and 3 more were injured. Russia also fired on industrial and energy infrastructure facilities in Zaporizhzhia. Later in the day, air raid sirens sounded in most regions of Ukraine. A spokesperson for the Air Force warned about multiple waves of missiles. About an hour later, Mykolaiv Oblast Governor Vitaly Kim announced the second wave of Russian cruise missiles. During the first wave, explosions were reported in Kharkiv, Donetsk, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhzhia, and Poltava oblasts. Further explosions were reported in Lviv, Ternopil, Khmelnytsky oblasts, and the city of Kryviy Rih. One missile was shot down in the Kiev region, the Kiev regional police chief stated. Up to 10 missiles were shot down over the Poltava region. Overall, it is reported that 60 out of 70 missiles were shot down. However, interruption to critical infrastructure was reported in Mykolaiv, Odessa, Sitomir and surrounding settlements, Kryvyy Rih, and Sumy Oblast. In Mariupol, sewer pipes burst after demolition of buildings, flooding streets and basements. The situation is critical. Residents report about freezing temperatures in their own homes. Windows are covered with cling film, but it is useless. The temperature in some apartments is plus 1 degree Celsius. In addition, corpses of people killed by the Russians during the siege are still found in wells. The people of Mariupol do not know whether they will be able to survive the winter. Mariupol was turned into a city cemetery. 3 more packages with animal eyes were sent to Ukrainian diplomats in Spain. So far, 21 of these incidents on Ukrainian diplomatic missions in 12 countries have been reported. The Wall Street Journal, citing a US official, claims the US secretly modified the HIMARS rocket launchers so they cannot be used to fire long-range missiles into Russia. These previously undisclosed modifications show the lengths the US is willing to go to balance its support for Ukraine against the risk of escalation with Moscow, and could be an insurance in case Ukraine stops keeping its promise not to strike Russian territory. And now a small side note. Russian propaganda sources reported that Putin visited the Crimean Bridge, spoke with the builders, and drove over the bridge in a car. Minister of Foreign Affairs Dmytro Kuleba commented on this. Today, he is happy to drive on a bridge that he once illegally built. His aggressive ambitions have diminished. Ukraine will make sure that they continue to shrink until they fit into Russia's borders. And another small side note, this time from Twitter. A video was shared online showing a German flak Panzer Gepard shooting down a Russian cruise missile with its 2 35mm autocannons.
Есть контакт!
Сука.
Есть, бля, родимая, готы, суку! Уху!
And finally, the mayor of Bakhmut, Oleksiy Reva, released a video recorded in the city. The video shows the devastating effect of the constant Russian shelling that has been going on for a month. A ruined town with bombed-out houses, among them many historical buildings. You can see residential buildings with broken roofs and walls with holes instead of windows, and a large number of destroyed shops, pharmacies, schools, and churches. The streets of the city are littered with toppled poles of power lines, broken wires, construction debris, fragments of enemy shells, and shell craters. And now for the UK Ministry of Defence intelligence update. In recent months, the number of sorties conducted by Russian tactical combat aircraft over Ukraine has reduced significantly. Russian aircraft now probably conducts tens of missions per day, compared to a high of up to 300 per day in March 2022. Russia has now lost over 60 fixed-wing aircraft in the conflict, likely including an additional Su-24M Fencer fighter bomber and a Su-25 Frogfoot ground attack aircraft last week. The decrease in sorties is likely a result of continued high threat from Ukrainian air defenses, limitations on the flying hours available to Russian aircraft, and worsening weather. With Russia's ground attack tactics largely reliant on visual identification and unguided munitions, the Russian Air Force will likely continue a low rate of ground attack operations through the poor winter weather. And finally, the evening report by the General Staff of Ukraine. According to preliminary information, more than 60 of the more than 70 missiles that the enemy launched today on the territory of Ukraine were shot down by the forces and means of air defense of the defense forces. The information is being clarified. In addition, the occupiers do not stop shelling the positions of our troops and settlements along the contact line. Aviation is actively used in Donetsk Oblast. The enemy is defending in the Kupiansk and Liman directions. In the Bakhmut and Avdiivka directions, the enemy is trying to improve the tactical position by conducting offensive actions. Units of the Russian occupation forces continue to commit illegal actions against the civilian population in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. In the city of Starobilsk, Luhansk Oblast, the mobilization of servicemen of the Russian occupation forces is being quartered in private houses. In the village of Olchine, Kakhovsky district, Kherson Oblast, the occupiers continue to export stocks of agricultural products of local agro-enterprises to the territory of the Russian Federation. Cases of robberies of private houses located in settlements along the left bank of the Dnipro River in the temporarily occupied territory of the Kherson Oblast have become more frequent. Due to significant losses in the units of the occupiers in Kherson Oblast, cases of desertion are noted. And this wraps up today's news update. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day. You were listening to The Account. Slava Ukraini.